I'm sure you watched that Oval Office blow up. What did you think when you were watching it?
Well, I watched it 3 times, and I have considerably more information about it from sources within the administration. They know now. There was a 20-minute briefing that took place prior to that, which is pretty normal, with all the people in the room that you saw, except for the press. Zelensky did not lay out any of those grievances in detail at that meeting. It is now well known that Zelensky and his chief of staff, Yermak, came into that meeting calculated and pre-planned to lobby the international media and the American press about the grievances and differences they had with President Trump. And that is what you saw going on. Zelensky was not asked a lot of questions, but he did most of the talking because he wanted to get his points across to who? He was lobbying the media to put pressure on Trump to get some concessions out of him at a later date. Absolutely misguided in every sense of the word in terms of what he was doing, manipulating the president. And that is why the administration is really frustrated with him, because they believe, look, if you disagree with us, fine. But why didn't you bring all of this up in the private session we had 20 minutes prior to the press briefing? They told him the press briefing was going to be about, this is a feel-good moment. We're going to sign a deal after lunch. It's good for the United States. It's good for Ukraine. Thank the American people. Thank the President of the United States. We're both moving together towards a peace agreement if Russia's going to cooperate. That is kind of what the administration had in mind. And look what we got.
Yeah.
We got a lecture on the differences between Zelensky and President Trump.
Is there any way that Zelensky could come back and say, I'm sorry, I apologize, I'm deeply grateful to the American people, I'll sign the deal? Any chance of that?
Yes, very much so. That night, after it all blew up, I was in contact with his chief of staff, and he told me then, this is Yermak, who was in the briefing, obviously. He said, hey, we're ready to come back and sign a deal. And I said to him, that's impossible if you don't reconcile first with the president, send a note to him or pick up the phone and call him. That is what has to be done. All of the European leaders publicly supporting Zelensky, most all of them have told him privately, get on with reconciling with President Trump, sign the deal. It is a good step in the right direction towards eventually testing the waters with Putin to see if he's really willing to compromise. And we don't have that answer yet. Okay. So, yes, there's still a possibility of this actually happening.
Wow, what a blowout on Friday, Newt. Did you watch it live? Zelensky claims now Ukraine is ready. Okay, so Zelensky claims he's ready to sign the rare earth minerals deal now after that explosive Oval Office meeting with the president. Trump says Zelensky will be welcomed back to the White House when and if he is ready for peace. And Secretary Scott Bessent, Treasury Secretary, said as of now the deal is no longer on the table. Just in time for Zelensky says he's ready to sign. How do you see all of this?
Well, look, I actually thought that President Trump was very much behaving like President Eisenhower, who was very tough in negotiations and who, frankly, was very tough on the Europeans because Eisenhower was totally committed to America, and he was committed to reducing the fiscal burden of government, and he wanted to make sure that our allies did their fair share. I think clearly Zelensky cheated on Friday. And if you look at the very opening, which the news media has not carried very much, you know, Trump is happy. He is positive. This is going to be a great meeting. We're going to get this signed. It's a step towards peace. And then all of a sudden it turns out Zelensky is not there to sign it. He's there to negotiate in front of the cameras. And I think that President Trump and Vice President Vance both felt that they had been cheated and hoodwinked, and they would not have accepted the meeting if they'd understood that Zelensky was not going to sign. Yeah. So I think Zelensky's in a deep hole. The Europeans cannot possibly replace America, and I think that he will have to come back to the table and have to sign something to regain the president's support.
Well, I mean, at a minimum, Trump got the Europeans to wake up. Right? I mean, finally, they're saying, OK, we're going to come up with a peace plan and then show it to the United States. Zelensky spent the weekend, you know, with the Europeans, first meeting with UK Prime Minister in London. So at a minimum, that whole showdown got Europe to get involved.
Look, what we're going to discover very quickly is that the Europeans can issue press statements. They have no money. They have no military. They have no capacity to replace us. And it's going to become very obvious that he has to come back to the United States.
All right, we'll leave it there. Speaker, always a pleasure. Great to see you, Newt Gingrich. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Well, first off, they've got to change the fact that on the 17th of January, the British signed an agreement with Ukraine to have exclusive rights to those deals. Kershaw, this is a battle of dueling narratives. You can go check it out. This is on the British-UK website. It talks about this 100-year, Ukraine and UK signed a 100-year deal over security guarantees and economic development. So what happened is that I believe President Trump and his team found out that they were being played. So this has become a set of dueling narratives. The BBC just said today there's massive protests here. Zach Andrews just said all the European leaders are behind Zelensky. We are being played. We, the United States, are trying to be signed up to a deal that we provide security guarantees to a economic development deal that Keir Starmer has already signed them up to do. So the first thing it has to do is people have to take a step back and be honest with what's really going on. And so I think what happened here, I don't know the details, it wasn't in that meeting, but Kershaw, the president was trying to play a straight line deal to sign an agreement with them over this mineral rights deal, knowing full well that the British had already signed on this 3 days before his inauguration. So where we go from here is both sides, if this is going to work, if the Europeans really want our help, they're going to have to take a step back and start being honest with the United States about what's really going on.
If you enjoy this content, please consider subscribing to my channel to stay up to date with future videos. Thank you for watching.